I'm not sure how I will ever feel about sport utility vehicles or CUVs, mostly because they just look kind of different. Like, sure, you've got some bangers out there like the new RSQ8, which has like 9 million horsepower. It can pull trains on pretty much anything, but that's just Audi doing what Audi does with odd platforms because it's really good for marketing, okay? And I'm not about to go do that because those cars are really expensive. You got Dodge introducing Hellcats, elephants, and other animal named motors into the domestic world that are cool as well, but the price is just unnecessary and you're just not really sure if you want to be rolling around in a Mopar. Like, I want it so bad, but I also want to eat buffalo wings for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's just not a good idea. There's a check and a balance in the mind, okay? CUVs and SUVs, no matter how sport-oriented they make them, it's still a little bit in the back of the noggin saying, I don't know about you. You're a little tricky to me, okay? All right, I'm not sure I'd want it, but I'd be willing to taste test. I'm Alex, Alex.fi on Instagram, and today we're gonna be talking about the Land Down Under, a car or truck or utility vehicle that was kind of the same thing, except it's been around for about half a century, okay? I would do an accent, but every time I used to do it in high school a decade ago, my foreign exchange student told me that I was actually talking British. I don't know what that even means, all right? You cheeky little boy. I don't know what I'm doing. We're gonna be talking about a platform that reminds me of the one guy that decided a Grand Cherokee needed 700 horsepower, okay? A car that's like a mullet, where it's a business in the front, yet a party in the back. And it truly is a party in the back. A car that Americans have made in their garages by hand because for some reason, El Camino should have never died in the 70s. Apparently, we should have just kept the drug train rolling and we would have been fine. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're gonna be talking to you about a better version, the best version, the most controversial and questionably ugly version. We're gonna be talking about you wanting to own a Holden UTE. UTE. A UTE, if you ask anyone above the age of 40, they'll just call it a UTE, because apparently that's cool. And if you're just jumping into this channel, hello. If you're from Australia, hi. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. And we officially launched our very own wheel company, Artisa Art Formed Wheels, a monoblock, lightweight, deco-directional brand focused on bringing wheels that the community wanted to people like you and people like me. So if you're interested in checking out a new wheel brand, be sure to do so. It'd mean a lot for us to have your support. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Anywho, the Holden UTE is a coupe utility built by Holden, which was the Land Down Under subsidiary of General Motors since Y2K. They've been along for a long time, way before General Motors. But the UTE, a colloquial or regional term used in Australia for a utility vehicle or pickup truck, became the vehicle's name after previously being called different variations of acronyms, all right? You see, Holden was never really creative in a lot of their names. They just kind of labeled them whatever they wanted to, and the acronym stood for different boring stuff. So the UTE was pretty exciting, but the framework wasn't really anything new. It had existed for decades prior to the official UTE, but just in different trims. The vehicle was iconic in its home country for the purpose that it could do pretty much everything. And I mean, when I say everything, I mean everything. It was a great, like, farm vehicle. It was a workhorse vehicle. It had speed. It was reliable. It was easy to work on. It came in a manual. It did it all. You could wrestle up sheep with it. You could do anything you want with this car, and it just did it. And everyone, when it came down to the Holden UTE and the different variations of it in the past, were happy with it. The Holden UTE is just better. It's a better name, okay? The Holden UTE was launched with a 3.8 liter Ecotec V6 out of a Buick, but had an optional 5.7 liter Gen 3 V8 as well, and was the first new UTE in about 10 years. GM bought a lot of licensing back then, and they kind of sort of own it. Not really. It's a really fun story, but the new lineup was pretty spectacular because it came with an independent rear suspension, which made it handle more like a sedan that was still pretty dang quick and could still get the rest of the job done. A lot of times people were picking up these vehicles not necessarily because they were comfortable, but because they had utility. Now Holden was finally getting their hands on some parts and pieces that can make the car comfortable. And this generation of the UTE was Holden's biggest cargo carrying capacity UTE. The UTE was an interesting vehicle, but it was only made more odd as kind of the years went on, and there were some before 2000, all right? But in 2002, they'd introduce a Crewman, which was a sedan 5-seater that just looks wrong. It just looks weird, but it's cool. It's just weird. They also restyled the front end to get more macho and more multifunctional display, a little more tech heavy, all right? And it didn't stop. Every other Ute would get more finished, more revamps, more updates, and more change. It got more aggressive, more refined, and it started to look really good. In fact, if you look at the new GTO from Pontiac in 04 to 06, you'd actually put that next to the Holden Ute, and you could see which one was better. There was a bunch of different motor options, different trims, depending on what you were looking for, and you could pretty much buy whatever you wanted, all right? You wanna go wrestle up some livestock, the Ute could go off-road, because it could do that. You want a quick girl? Get the SS, okay? Have 4 kids and a wife, get a crewman and cry that you own a crewman, because those cars, I don't know what it is about them, but it should have been a sedan, but then they added a boot, okay? Regardless of what you needed, there was a Ute for you. Probably a slogan somewhere. The Holden Ute became an icon for the workman or workwoman that lived in Australia, and even though the vehicle would get makeup year over year over year, it was still a capable vehicle. And even though GM stepped in and had a bunch of pieces and licensing to kind of finagle it all together to really make it work, the Ute never really stepped too far away from being a properly good functional utility vehicle. And the only thing that ceased difficulty with the success of the platform was kind of the pause or the inevitable demise of the 2008 market crash, and the fact that its older brother through GM, aka Pontiac, wasn't necessarily having the best of times. The Ute itself would get to continue to be redesigned in 2007, 2013, and 2015, aggressively becoming the Australian cousin of the Chevy SS, but with a 1500 bed. Now, that may not be entirely accurate, but the platform would come with a 3.6 liter or a 6 liter. You're practically getting a Corvette with a bed. You're practically getting everything that you'd possibly want except not a truck, which meant it was a sport utility vehicle with the actual speed of a sports car. Before all of these CUVs and SUVs ever came to be, even though they weren't even available in the United States, the Holden Ute was doing it first. But just because they're not necessarily in the United States doesn't necessarily mean that you should just knock them out of the dream world because you can't get one. You can import one if you really want to, and in fact, a lot of people actually do. And that's because we're not here to talk about the history of these odd-looking cars that used to work hard, but now is like the Australian equivalent of Carhartt. We're here to talk about you wanting to own one of these Holden Utes, one of these, you know, they're just, I call them a bad boy, but it's more like a sophisticated man that wears boots on a Friday night out. So you want a Holden Ute. Well, grab your favorite gas can and drop off your GM jokes, because we're about to spend a couple, 2-3 minutes talking about what it's like to actually own one of these things.
This is 1 day old coffee, but it's still good.
Owning a Ute is a little like having a mullet in 2020. Like, you want to hate it, but there's a reason people are doing it. And it actually kind of looks a little bit like fun. Ask Jerry, he's got a mullet thing going on. The Ute is that same thing. Now, the most recent generations are the best because it's pretty much an SS with the back doors chopped off and a bed in its place. But grabbing one may be a little bit more difficult. Now, remember, you can get Holden Utes for practically any platform up to LS variants to whatever you really want to. They can come with 500 horsepower. You can get them with superchargers. You can get them with anything you want. But whatever you do, just get the V8. Doesn't matter if it's the 5 liter, the 6 liter, the V8, the LSA, the LS6, the LS, I don't know if all those come with it, but you need to make sure that you get the S or SS trim. You want to make sure that you can get that V8, and then you can pick your poison from there. What makes these cars truly fun is the fact that it's a rear-wheel drive platform on a typically very light rear end. It makes them very easy to break loose, run sideways, and just be an overall hooligan in them. And since it's a GM Holden product, the reliability is relatively okay, and the V8 platform is tried and true without much surprise there. That means that a lot of things can bolt onto the product without you having to wait for stuff to come from overseas. Not only that, but you can get a certain type of trim called the MALOO. I'm really bad at this. You can get a MALOO, which is a top performance variant, which is a V8 with a 6-speed, and you practically purchased the fastest Corvette with a trailer. Pretty much the car is a Corvette for those that also want to be able to go to Home Depot without having to bug a buddy to try and grab it for you, okay? They're an awesome car, and they're awkward as hell to kind of look at. The fronts are super aggressive, but the backs just kind of stop. That's okay. Australia had something special. They had something truly unique. The 70s, us Americans had the El Caminos, and we never really were on another drug like the 70s, which meant we never really got a vehicle like the El Camino ever again. The Subaru one does not count. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. It's like the free-to-play version of the Camino. If you're looking to actually own one of these though, stick to the performance-oriented trims here as they are built for people like you and people like me. You're also gonna wanna make sure that you pick one up that has its maintenance completed and any sort of import records done. If you don't have the import records, you're gonna wanna make sure whoever you go through actually gets it converted to a proper left-hand drive vehicle. It's a GM Corvette platform, okay? With wheels, tires, and suspension, the wheels are gonna be the same as the Corvette. Mostly high offset stuff from Cray, TSW, Velgen, or American Racing. Tires are all dependent on if you're using it to wrestle cows or break nets on a Friday night cruise, but from what I can tell, it's mostly gonna be things from Nitto, Michelin, or Toyo, mostly with Nitto being the wider size stuff. Suspension is gonna be pretty standard with coilovers, or you can slam it on the ground with your own custom air suspension kit with some over fenders. There's one out there, it's black, it's slammed, it's got over fenders, and it looks really good. The Holden UTE actually kind of reminds me a little bit of a Ford Lightning, which also deserves to be on the ground with an aftermarket exhaust, screaming through, I don't know, streets, racetracks, Fast and the Furious. I really wish that truck was in the Fast and the Furious more. From a reliability standpoint, you're buying an Australian GM product in the most general statements. So while it won't be the worst thing in the world, I am sure there will be times you wish you had just bought a Chevy SS instead. The platform will be a little bit more difficult to maintain as a whole, but that's anytime you're gonna be importing a vehicle. There was a company that actually imported UTEs and turned them into left-hand drive vehicles for compliance and then sold them. Their website does look like it's from 2004, so I'm not entirely sure if they're alive anymore, but it is possible to get them here. They're just a little rare. Like, I'm not sure I'd own one, but I'd love to go ride in one. I'd love to go look at all of the cool, you know, dinner recipes on TikTok, but if you think I'm spending 10 hours to make a brisket, I'm just gonna go to Parker John's for like 10 bucks and do the same thing. But what do you think about the Holden UTE? Let us know below, and of course, if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com and let us know in the comments section below on what you'd like us to cover next. Maybe it is a K truck.
Spoiler alert.
I think there's somebody that's up to like day 50, so there's a chance. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries, and we will see you later. Peace.